Welcome to Cocktail History with the Freeborn County Historical Museum, Library, and Village. I'm Stephanie Kibler, Executive Director, with Risha Lilienthal, Curator. Today we're discussing the Long Island iced tea. Yes. I feel like when people first start watching us, they think we've already imbibed.
It's true.
The setup for this, for some reason, is just silly every time, and we have not imbibed yet. So, shocker! There are two competing origin stories.
What?
For the Long Island iced tea. One from Long Island, Tennessee.
Oh,
One from Long Island, New York.
I think that's the only one I've heard of.
So we'll start with Robert Rosebud Butt. Claims to have invented the Long Island iced tea as an entry in a contest to create a new mixed drink with triple sec. So it was sponsored by Triple Sec. This was in 1972. He worked at Oak Beach Inn on Long Island.
In Tennessee.
Long Island, New York.
New York. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't say that, but yes, New York. The story's source
Yeah.
is Butt himself.
How do you spell that?
B-U-T-T.
Oh, it is? Okay.
The Long Island iced tea was definitely popularized. I don't know if that's a real word. Popularized? It's hard for me to say. In the 1970s. And I think you can contribute that to Rosebud Butt.
Okay.
Now, a slightly different drink invented back in the 1920s during Prohibition by an old man bishop in a local community named Long Island in Kingsport, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
The drink was then tweaked by Ransom Bishop, old man bishop's son, by adding cola, lemon, and lime. The old man's version included whiskey and maple syrup.
Ooh.
And then varied quantities of the 5 different liquors that are involved in it. But it had all the same liquors.
Oh.
Just they weren't equal quantities. So the son made them equal quantities and added the cola, lemon, and lime. During the Prohibition era, which of course we all know, there was a constitutional amendment banning the sale, consumption, or production of alcoholic drinks from 1920, 1933. Americans got creative with their cocktails or started cocktail crafting.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was during this time that Old Man Bishop is said to have created his version of the Long Island iced tea. While this hasn't been substantiated, it has some credence because people were disguising their cocktails at the time, and this looked like an iced tea.
That's what I was going to say. Is that why they called it iced tea?
I'm guessing so.
Because, like, where's the tea?
Right? Yes, there's no tea, but it looks like an iced tea.
Yeah.
And the high alcohol content would have been commonplace during Prohibition also because
It wasn't made for you.
to sip.
Right.
And yes, it was,
You wanted it.
you wanted it. And then the legend has it, that he passed it down to his son who refined the version today. He did that during the 1940s.
All right.
So I did a little snooping on Kingsport, Tennessee, because I was a little curious. And the first thing that pops up is a video of Connie Bishop Archer, the granddaughter of Old Man Bishop,
Aww.
talking about his contribution in the Long Island iced tea. There's also a little story that says there was a recipe for Long Island iced tea in the 1961 edition of Betty Crocker's New Picture Cookbook. But no recipe can actually be found. So I guess that circulates though.
Sure. Yeah.
So really, I think Old Man Bishop might have had it. And his recipe was cola, not the original, but the Ransom, his son's mess.
Who equalized
Cola, half a lemon, half a lime, whiskey, maple syrup, tequila, gin, rum, and vodka.
All right.
And I kind of wish I would have brought some maple syrup in because it would have been fun to try that version.
Cool.
But we'll post that one we'll have the recipe available.
Right, yeah, so you can use that recipe.
Yeah,
to do it.
but we'll do the one we're gonna use also.
Yeah.
So, are you ready to mix up this dangerous cocktail?
Yes.
Drink cautiously.
Right.
22% alcohol content.
Oof.
Yeah, it's a.
That's why we're making one to split.
Yes, we are making one to share. So, the recipe calls for equal parts.
Okay,
So we're gonna do 1 ounce of vodka.
into the shaker.
Yes, I thought since it would be easier because we're gonna
stir.
pour.
1.
1. And then 1 ounce of white rum.
Woo! Oh, goodness.
An ounce of tequila. An ounce of rum.
White rum and rum?
I mean gin. Sorry, an ounce of gin. We already did rum. Sorry. We don't have triple sec here, but we have Cointreau. Triple
Ooh,
sec and
that's
Cointreau
good.
are both orange liqueurs. So we're gonna do an ounce of Cointreau. We're gonna do an ounce of simple syrup.
That's easy. I don't have to flip this around at all.
No, I know, right? Messing
Oh,
up
my,
here.
my.
An ounce of lemon juice.
Oh no, it's in this bowl again.
I did say we weren't gonna do that again, didn't I? We need a little juicing bowl that has
That
the
can
spout.
pour,
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, and now I'm just realizing I need a bottle opener out of that drawer to your right, because we then we're gonna top it off with cola. So I would say stir that up. I would say stir that up and split it, and then we'll top it with the cola and add a little slice or wedge of lime.
I don't have to be delicate with this one.
No, and you probably don't have to do too much mixing there.
Okay. Oh,
Seriously? You take the longest time to pour a cocktail. You will never make it as a bartender.
that's a good thing I'm
So a
not.
splash of Coke
Oh, it's just a splash.
and a splash of Coke. What's that?
Yeah. And this is what kind of Coke?
This would be Mexican Coke. And if you want to know what the difference is, made with cane sugar, not corn syrup. It is a tasty, tasty Coke. Let's do a little,
Oh, let's just stir.
and let's add our lemon.
Oh yeah.
I just washed my hands. I did do a little slit
split.
so they could look pretty. And that's basically a Long Island iced tea.
Cool.
So, I'm gonna confess, I've done this a couple other times in my life, but I made it for a large group, so we were trying to, make a big recipe. It
Yeah.
never turns out as good as I want, so I'm a little scared. Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm gonna drop that in there. Oh my God, it's perfect. Oh my goodness, I have not had one of these in forever.
Oh no, that's good.
Yeah, it's perfect.
That's good.
Mm.
You did good.
Awesome.
Mm.
So, I actually should have challenged you. There's so many interesting little, like, do we have an old man story
Oh,
for
you
Freeborn
should
County?
have asked.
Do we have a rosebud in
Oh,
Freeborn County? Is there,
I mean, people who grow roses for sure.
then there's the mention of bishop? Old man bishop? Is there a bishop? There's so many things we could have looked into.
Yeah.
And I didn't throw that
Oh.
challenge at you, so I'm curious
Yeah.
though. How did you get what you got on Long Island?
All right, so I have one that's less obvious and one that's more obvious, and I have a
And that's
stamp
not
on
at
top of
all
my head.
obvious.
No. throw that away. But so I have a more obvious and a less obvious. Which one do you want first?
Less.
Less obvious? Okay. So because the day this is being released is going to be the last day of Women's History Month.
Yeah.
I wanted to highlight another woman in Freeborn County.
Oh my goodness, I didn't even talk about, no, never mind. I didn't even talk about the Women's History Month.
Oh, yeah, well, here it is. And one that we haven't talked about that I've been kind of sitting on for a while is Love Cruikshanks.
I was wondering, because we've been talking about her today.
Mm-hmm. And because there are so many different alcohols in there, I wanted to highlight like a lot of her different things, because we have a lot on her. And she was well loved in the community. Mm-hmm. She worked for the Albert Lee Tribune for 32 years. Mm-hmm. So here's just a few little tidbits on her. Well, she was born in 1916 and died in 2006. And she was a feminist. She supported women's movement and addresses equal pay in 1981 in the paper. She was an actress and was interested in theater. So she was in the 1965 The Man Who Came to Dinner.
I love that movie. Oh, love that.
She was in that show.
I love that show.
And she was also on the board of directors at ACT, at the Albert Lee Community Theater. She was a writer, of course. The 32 years with the paper was a big deal. And she also had the Love Notes column.
Oh, of course.
Her last name, Love. So she did Love Notes as a column.
That wasn't her last name.
I mean, her first name was Love. First name, Love.
My brain just hit the wall.
Well, I think about it because her typewriter at the Tribune had Love, like, labeled on it.
Sure.
And she won first place in the 1960-61 contest of the National Federation of Press Women.
Oh, yay.
And she was in a local writers group for at least 10 years, because she appears within their group in 1994 and 2004.
I believe she was a lover of art.
Oh, yes. Yep. I'm going to get to
you're
that.
getting there, Kate.
See, I'm not done.
Jump.
So before I want to say that, I do want to say she was a lover of cats. She loved cats. Her cat, Finnegan.
Oh, I love it.
We have her, like this, there's like a profile picture almost of him, like a headshot, and this cat is kind of cross-eyed.
Oh.
It's adorable though, but he looks sweet.
Oh.
And the last two cats that she owned, they were, paired, they were named Sodom and Gomorrah. That's interesting.
I love that.
Right? Isn't that great? And one of them was super fluffy.
As a feminist, I love that.
Yeah. But yes, she was a lover of art. As you said, she had several pieces of local art up in her living room. But she was also on the board of directors at the Albert Lee Art Center. Okay. She knew Lloyd Herfindahl. Okay. She knew John Lackus. And she had both paintings from both of them in her living room. She played around with photography, and so like in the 60s, we don't have the kind of photography we have now. Right. And she played with a lot of dual images and such.
Do we have any of her
We
pieces?
have one that I can think of, but I don't think it was something that she kind of like brought forth and like showed too much. I think it was just her own kind of hobby of playing with photography. There's like an image of her with like a teacup or something that's like reflected, like back,
cool.
So yeah, it's interesting. And she was in 1975, she was in the Who's Who of American Women. And she was one of 25,000 American women who was listed in that 1975 book.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And last thing before I give a quote from her is that she was an avid reader. She loved to read. She said, "I never clean the house. I just sit and read in it. Never trust a person who would rather clean than read."
Oh, interesting.
But my final...
Who would rather clean?
My grandmother, but...
Oh, dear. Oh, dear, Grandma.
But anyways, final thing on love is a quote from her in 1972. So mind you, this was before she was in the Who's Who of American Women. She said, quote, I think if I were to choose an epitaph for myself, it would read something like, she didn't accomplish much, but she had a heck of a good time trying, unquote.
Oh, I might steal that.
Isn't that
I
great?
might borrow that.
Yeah.
Because really, it should be about the good time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to say this, and this is why I'm saying this. I just finished my article for the Steele County Times, and I just do a little op-ed piece.
Yeah.
And I did it on milestone birthdays because I just turned 60. And as I'm turning 60, it has occurred to me, this is the age my mother was when she died.
Oh, wow.
So all of my memories now going forward are memories that my mother never got to make. All of the people I meet, all of the things I do are experiences she never got to have.
Right.
Well, that's perfect, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is perfect for that.
Oh,
So it's all about experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now stop getting
so I'm
teary.
sorry.
God.
Just looking at my eyes.
Yeah, good grief. Was she never on the board of the Humane Society here? Because she was a advocate for the Humane Society.
I'm
also.
not sure. I still haven't gone through all of what,
Okay.
like, our lovely librarian Linda downstairs is why I'm doing that. But she,
Down.
we're upstairs in the museum. So our lovely librarian Linda gave a binder full,
Okay.
full of Love Crookshanks, just memories, letters, and people after she died wrote in too to talk about her and their experiences. I would assume she was
it
with
wouldn't
the Humane
surprise me.
Society in some way.
Well, I know
yeah.
her family had memorial requests were to the Art Center and the Humane Society. So,
Sure. So I would not be surprised.
and I didn't even know you were going to talk about her today.
Yeah, isn't that cool? But that was the less obvious connection.
Okay, now what's the more obvious?
The more obvious connection is the fact that, in Albert Lea at least, we have several, islands on our lake.
Yes, we do.
And one that I enjoy going to is Catherine Island.
Yes.
And did you know that is a separate park from New Denmark Park?
I did not. That little island is?
That little island is its own park.
So what's a good way to describe, in case somebody doesn't know,
Sure.
Denmark Park and Catherine Island?
So New Denmark Park is
Mermaid, right?
Yep, that's got the mermaid sculpture, and it has another sculpture fountain of the
And it's got the fountains.
The fountains are coming out.
Yes.
But right next to that, there's an there's an island that is connected by a little bridge that you don't have to walk very far at all. And you can the mermaid is like here, and then the island is like right here.
So that's considered a separate park.
That's its own park.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. And there's a question of whether it's Catherine with a K or Catherine with a C.
So they're not sure which Catherine it's named after?
They are sure, but people in general aren't always sure.
Okay.
So Catherine with a K is the one that it actually is.
Catherine with a K.
Catherine with a K
after Catherine.
After Catherine Rubel. Catherine Rubel Ross. She got married, but she was George Rubel's, I believe, granddaughter.
Sure.
Yes, granddaughter of George Rubel.
Okay.
Who was one of the first residents
Sure.
in the area, but he also was the original builder of the dam that created Fountain Lake.
Okay.
And that dam caused a whole bunch of I don't know if I necessarily have the correct material names, but it's peat got all peat rock and peat soil got all bulged together to create bogs.
Yes.
And that's what ended up creating the islands. So
Oh,
the islands came
interesting.
from bogs that came from them collecting in
Is
spots.
that a common occurrence, I
Oh
wonder?
gosh, I don't know.
I guess I've never heard of that, but
Yeah.
I don't know if that's that's
They were
interesting.
floating bogs.
How cool is that?
And now they're lovely. People take photos and weddings and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I want to just clarify for people as we're doing we do this the whole day long as we're talking about things we're doing. We are constantly hand talking.
Oh my gosh, yes,
We're
our
a
hands
whole
are going
group of
everywhere.
hand talkers.
Yes, very, very much. and it looks like we have a comment from the peanut gallery
I
over
think
here.
it actually has to do with guests in the building.
Well, Miss Sophie's here for her costume.
Oh.
And I do not know, I can help her with it, but I don't know what I need to get.
So we have a night at the museum question here. Tomorrow night is
Yes.
a night at the museum.
Yes.
And Dr. Elizabeth Stacy just arrived to pick out her clothing for the evening.
Yes.
So,
So
do you have
do we
any-
take an intermission or?
Let's take an
Let's
intermission.
take an intermission.
Talking about the bogs.
The bogs
The-
turned
into
into
the
islands. Because they got anchored down with soil and rocks
Yeah,
there.
which is so interesting.
Late 1800s, early 1900s, and is where most of the islands that we have on those different
Interesting.
lakes happened. Yeah, and that had a lot to do with the dam that was created by George Rubel. And I just did stairs. So Miss Catherine Rubel,
Yes.
who Catherine Island was named after,
Mm-hmm.
her father, Charles N. Rubel, so George's son Charles,
Mm-hmm.
had passed away, and she was under the guardianship of a C.B. Teller, was his name.
Okay.
And he was a bank person. Oh, Keller, so he was a bank teller, but his last name was Keller.
Well, I was gonna say that's weird. Teller as a teller.
Right? No, Keller was his last name. And he wanted that island to be named after her.
Oh.
Originally they were calling it
Oh.
Pearl. I know. Originally they were calling it Pearl Island.
That's my mom's name. And my mother was born in Freeborn County.
Oh, I didn't know that. What? So he presented it to the city council. He presented it to the city
Oh,
council.
I love that.
In 1908 is when he presented it to them
Yeah.
to have it named after her. And he said that he would like, what did he say here? Because of her love for and pride for her native city, and will ever be appreciated by its admiring citizens.
Oh.
He said it was a very beautiful spot, and then they were going to cut out the dead trees that were around, and the park board would no doubt see to it that the necessary improvements are made to it to create it a more beautiful park. So apparently it was a little
Oh.
overgrown around there.
Well, I believe
But-
bogs come with dead trees.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe that's
that
a
makes sense. But at this point, I think it was already an island.
yeah, but if it still had the peat, it could that
Oh,
trees could
that's
still be
true.
hanging there from.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that he went. That's
Yeah.
not even her dad that did
No,
that.
it was her guardian.
And the Rubels
Yeah.
played such an important role
Large
here.
part. Yep. But it wasn't until 1913 that the city ended up. So it was 5 years after. It takes time for those things to go
Yeah,
through.
yeah.
But yeah, the document was signed by Catherine Rubel Ross, because her married name was Ross, and her husband William Ross Jr. And they have Catherine Island now.
I
It's Catherine with a K.
Love that.
Yeah.
Because I knew this story, just to tell you. I knew it was Catherine with a K.
Oh, okay.
Of Catherine Rubel.
Oh.
But you know where I went?
Mm-mm.
I went to Meehan or Claiborne. Because we've
I
talked so
definitely
much
went to
about
Meehan.
Meehan and Claiborne
Mhm.
here. So I love that that's Catherine Rubel.
Yeah.
Because I believe the street down there's a Catherine Street.
Oh, is there?
Now, is that after Catherine Rubel or is that after a different Catherine? Because I thought that started. I don't know either. I think it's Catherine Rubel.
Okay. Catherine Rubel Ross.
It's fun to drive through town and see some of the street names because they're named after somebody, but who? And I always ask Linda because, Linda downstairs.
Yes.
Because she just flips through her
Right.
brain and it says.
Like you said, the little Rolodex goes.
Just goes.
I want to know Euclid,
There's a story
right?
there.
I want to know that one.
Well, you better go downstairs.
Yeah. I mean, we know the Eddie Cochran, why that one is. But
Yes, and that's
And
the new
Marion
one.
Ross.
That's a new one.
Yeah.
And that's a new one.
Yep.
Yeah, we need to get the street name going into the fairgrounds,
That would be great.
like Horse Race Alley or something.
Yeah.
Is it?
Or Red Eye, wasn't that the horse
Oh,
name?
old Red Eye.
Yeah.
Oh, there's. Stay tuned. We might make the submission, folks.
Cheers.
Cheers.